So I'd love it if you would please use these hashtags. Just transmit to the world that you're here and having a wonderful time with us today. So it's hashtags Leeds Digi 22, and our own one is hashtag Digital Culture Network. And we've also got a Twitter account, which is ace_DCN. So ACE DCN. Okay, so I'm gonna take you into my house now. It's a bit different. So I'm gonna stop sharing. So what I've got here, if I can pull it out, there we go. I've got a nice bit of string. And this is kind of the stuff that we're going to be talking about today. So I've got my bit of string. I'm just going to do this. So I'm going to disappear now out of the room. You follow me with this bit of string. I know this is weird, but stay with me. Stay with me. So here we go. I'm going to take it outside the room. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to wrap it around this bit. We'll keep going. Wrap around here as well. Just see if my lapel mark will let me go any further. A bit further, there we go. So I've got a really, it's going all the way up here now. It's still going. Okay, there's the end of it, just there. Brilliant. So I'm going to come back now. That's the end of the very, very strange bit. This lovely metaphor that we're going to be talking about today, which is all about how long is a piece of string. Now, you just see me wander down there. Quite interested, aren't you? You want to know how long is this thing? And the questions for you are these. I love the emoji button. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. Share that one. There we go. So my questions for you today is all about this piece of string. So how long is a piece of string? So I've now just walked out the room, attached it to things, gone different places. And what we're looking at is what methods could we use to find out the length of that string? Let's have to think about that. What techniques or tools could we use? And with those, how much time would it take for us to find out how long that bit of string is? Is there any guesses, by the way? I've already left the room. Any ideas? You want to guess how long that bit of string is? Four meters, says Daniel. 1 meter. 8.58. 7.5, good. 5 meters, yeah. Brilliant. 10 foot, 6 meters. Oh, got some imperial metric going on here. I like it. Infinite. Longer than the piece of string on my desk, says so great, brilliant. 5 James size steps. 1 furlong. Brilliant. So the answer is on the next slide. So here we go. You ready? Big drum roll. 1/100th of the size of Earth. The answer is this. It doesn't matter. It absolutely doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter because what is the impact of knowing how long that string is? And what can we change with that knowledge? So all of our interest was piqued. It's like, oh, we had, as Joe said, it had a great time. We were all very interested in that. But no one stepped back and said, why? And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to look at why you should be tracking different metrics and the important ones for your organization. So we wasted a lot of time there, but we're going to get cracking with some good stuff next. So in your organization, ask why. When you have all these metrics you might be collecting, ask why. Why are you collecting them? Do they actually feed into anything? Are they actually useful? Can you change anything with the knowledge of what the metric is telling you? So what I'd like you to do now, if you wouldn't mind, is just close your eyes for a moment and think of a sea creature. Think of what kind of size is it? What would it taste like if you licked it? Now, what I'd like you to do, while your eyes are still closed and you're thinking of this sea creature, and there's lots of nautical themes throughout this presentation, by the way, I want you to imagine that I've got a business that I've set up, and I'm opening the business next week, and I've tasked you with collecting 90 kilograms of this sea creature that you're imagining, and I need it by next Friday. So where would you go to collect the sea creature? How would you catch it? And what tools would you need? So where would you go? How would you catch it? And what tools would you need? So again, lots of thoughts are going into this, lots of effort. So next week you rock up at my shop on Friday, and my grand opening, and you see my sign and you think, oh, something might be quite a bit wrong here, because this is my shop. You can open your eyes now, by the way. It's James's Menai Mussels. So at James's Menai Mussels, we believe that sustainable organic shellfish should be low cost and delicious. We only sell the freshest and tastiest mussels caught in the Menai Strait. Now, how many of you caught any mussels? Tell me in the chat, what did you catch? What was your sea creature? A kraken, says Charlotte. Ahab style. Seahorses. Oh, those poor seahorses. Wow, if you only went for the Loch Ness Monster. Oh, sea anemones, I can't say it. A narwhal, starfish. Mussels, Laura, well done. You get a special prize. Excellent work. Crab, octopus. No, but I had a lovely colourful fish in mind. Oh, that's nice. A giant squid. Excellent. Good work, Hannah. So you've rocked up my shop with your giant squid, Hannah, but it's not what we were expecting, because I wasn't clear. I didn't give you enough direction about what I wanted you to get. And that's the same with the metrics that we're looking at. No one's asking why, and you need to ask why when it comes to metrics. Otherwise, we're spending a lot of effort, a lot of time, getting a ship, going Ahab style, capturing this big thing, bringing it back, all that wasted effort. And it's the same thing with metrics. Everything should link in to what you're doing as an organization. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to navigate some of that sea of metrics that we have. I hope you're enjoying these nautical themes. So when I talk about metrics and my job as data analytics and insight and my tech champion role, people think that this is what I do. I stare into the matrix and all these things appear forming numbers and stats and figures and things like that. But it's not. And I'll tell you why, and I'll show you some examples of what I actually do. So has anybody been in a meeting and they've loaded up their Google Analytics dashboard and they've all sat around and you've clicked through some of these reports and you're just expecting these insights to just magically appear in front of you? Anyone done that? Hands up? Yeah, thumbs up. Yeah. Yes. And it's hard. And again, a bit of a waste of time if you're just clicking through and just trying to find stuff. And by the way, if you're using this version of analytics, it will stop working next year in July. And if you need help to switch over to another platform or the new version, Google Analytics 4, then please do get in touch with us because we'll help support you through that. That's just a little aside as well. So when we talk about metrics and measures, there are loads of them. They're everywhere. In every platform you've got, there's different ones. There are different things that you're collecting across the whole of your organization and what you might be doing. So it's really hard to fathom the right ones because you might have some of these, like registered users, average order value, sessions. Some of these, like followers, revenue, conversion rate, pages, views, users mentioned. There's loads and loads of them. And it can become quite overwhelming. And if you've been collecting this data for a long, long time, it's hard to stop collecting some of them because you've always done it. But there's a really good quote, I don't know where it came from originally, but this one, just, keep this in mind. So measure what you value, don't value what you measure. So don't value the data collection itself. What are you actually getting out of it? What are the core things that tell you that you're on a successful journey and you're getting to where you need to be? What are the actual metrics that will prove that? And another great quote, it's impossible to gain insights when you're looking at the wrong data. By a very, very intelligent person, me. I've just said it now. It didn't come from anywhere. So when you're looking at this, start at the very top and ask this question of yourself. Why do you exist? Now, it's not an existential question, this one. It is all about your organization. And your organization should have a vision statement or a mission statement. And everything you do should link back to this. So to achieve our vision, we must do certain things. So why is the world a better place? Because your organization exists. And you should have a vision statement. I don't know if any of you can to rack off what yours is and just stick in the chat if you know yours already. But you should have a 1 or 2 line sentence, which is all about why your organization exists or why your artistic practice exists and what you do. And everything you do when it comes to metrics or actions and activity should be related back to this. So to achieve your vision, you need to maybe generate some revenue to help continue the things you want to do. So what metrics are useful for that? You may need to do other things as well, or actions and activities to achieve your vision. So it's what core metrics are attached to those as well. And it works as a pyramid, it goes down. Your vision statement's right at the top. You'll have different actions and activities that will support that. And below that, many, many metrics, which are going to show your success against those. So has anybody not seen The Little Mermaid? Give us a thumbs up in the reactions if you've never seen it. Is it anyone's favourite film of all time? A little love heart there. Brilliant. So it's a true story, for those of you not seen it, a true story about a mermaid who lives in the sea, and she really, really wants to join our world. And that's what we can talk about when we think about Ariel's vision statement. So what is her vision statement? She tells us explicitly in the film, and it's like the vision statement that you've got for your organization. She tells us explicitly in the film. Firstly, these are the things that she wants to achieve. She wants more. She wants to be where the people are. She wants to see them dancing. And she wants to be walking around on those feet. So those are the real clear success metrics that she's got. But ultimately, Ariel's vision statement is that she actually wants to be part of your world. That's what she's trying to get to. And she's got some clear metrics about how she's going to achieve that and what she's going to work towards. So I've got another question for you next. Why are metrics useful? So do you want to pop them in the chat? Have a think about that. So why are metrics useful? Beckett says to measure success. Yeah, perfect. Helps you know that you're doing your job right. Yeah. Helps know you're on track. Yeah. Learn about audience needs. Yeah. To know where to improve. Brilliant. Yeah. So you can be more focused in what you're doing. Yeah, your status at a glance. Help to quantify scale. You know if you've achieved your objective. Yeah, brilliant. Give you a baseline. Yes, exactly. So you can have something, a benchmark to work from. Helps you see what doesn't work from Kate. Yes, brilliant. Yeah. Highlights problem areas to improve it and rectify mistakes. And they help you plan how to get to your vision. Yes, excellent. You've got it all down. It's brilliant. That's it. So it can show how your strategy is on track, where you're trying to get to, your overarching strategy. It will help make reporting easier. You can communicate across your organization, and then a lot of it can be automated as well. So by defining your metrics and tracking them in the right place, it can help all of those things and everything that you've put in the chat. So thank you. If we look at marketing measurement, we would want to see what is working. So from a marketing point of view, there are different areas of your business or your organization that have nothing to do with marketing. But we're talking about marketing today to show you a framework of how you might put some metrics within a framework. But there are other things that you might want to do as well. So the rest of the content we're going to talk about today is talking through that. So it all boils down to two questions when we look at success, especially for marketing. And these two questions are these. One is, who is your audience? You might have different audience groups for your organization that you're trying to reach. So for a theatre, for example, they might have the general public that they want to come to their events and come to a theatre show and purchase a ticket. That's the journey that they want them to go on. But they also might have local businesses that they want to come along and hire the venue as well. Now, those are very, very different audiences and very different actions, what they want them to do. So the first step is defining who your audience is. So you might have various different ones. They might be subcategories as well, different age groups or demographics that you're trying to reach. And then the next question is, what do you want them to do? What action do you want them to take with your organization? So if you can start to build that understanding up, you can then start to build a funnel to see for them to help them go from one place through to another. And we're going to talk through the funnel now. I'm going to show you that. So we're going to sail down the marketing funnel. I'm going to keep throwing these C references in. So for a funnel, it just helps visualize and outline each step of where you want to take your different audience groups. And every art form, no matter what art form or organization or sector you work in, you will always have a conversion point. There's always something that you want someone to do, and it's about defining what that is and then looking at how you can take someone on a journey. So who's seen one of these before? Maybe not in these colors, because these are our brand ones. Yeah, lots of colors. Nice little hand there. Good. Well, I'm going to talk you through the steps. So this will be a lovely refresher for those of you who've seen it before. And if you haven't, we're going to talk through them. So you're going to know what each step means and how you might use them in your organization. So the first step of the marketing funnel, the very, very top, which is where the most people are. So the funnel is in that shape because you get less and less people as you go down. So I'll never see a marketing campaign get the full amount of people from the top, bang, straight down. It's very rare. I don't think it's ever happened. So you always have more people at the top of the funnel, then it will move down the funnel. So the first step of a funnel is all about knowing you exist. So from our point of view as the Digital Culture Network, some of you have been on our events before, or you've interacted with us in other ways. So you know we exist. There's other stuff that hooked you in the first place. You might have been recommended by a friend or seen an email, signed up to a newsletter, those kind of things, or found it on Twitter or things like that. And it's all about you identifying a need. It's like, I want to be trained in this certain thing. We've seen this webinar. It's like, why are you measuring that? That sounds quite interesting. You might not have known that it's the Digital Culture Network, but now you now know that we exist. And in the future, you might come back to us for more. And for your organization, whatever you're doing, the awareness stage is, if nobody knows you exist, nobody's ever going to do any of the other steps in your funnel. So it's what can you do to build awareness? The next is the consideration stage, and that is you are an option. So if I wanted to do something this weekend, I know that, and I want to do something cultural, I know there are certain organizations in my region that I can go to that might be doing something. So I will seek them out and see what they're doing. If I've never heard of them before or didn't know they exist, I'm not going to look for them. So they're never going to be part of my consideration for what I'm going to do this weekend. But once they are, they're in my head. And that's where you want to get to with your audiences. The third step of the funnel is the conversion stage. So this is getting your audience to do something. And it might be, it's very different depending on your art form or your type of organization. It might be buying a ticket. It might be watching a video or filling out a form or something like that, or registering for something. There's loads of different things that you might want people to do when it comes to conversion. And you could build this funnel out for each audience group you have and different things that you want people to do. The fourth is retention. So that's getting people to come back. So for us, again, as a Digital Culture Network, as an example, we'd love you to come and read some of our resources that are going to follow this webinar, or come back to another event, or get in touch with us for some one-to-one support with a tech champion. So that'd be great if you did that. And then what happens is that the people that you retain, and they're having a good experience with you, they will do the thing for you and be your advocate. So word of mouth is still such an important marketing technique and channel. So that's the best validation, is word of mouth. So if you can get other people to be your advocate, it means that you can bring people, they'll do the work for you to get more awareness of what you do as an organization. It also means that if you're spending money on like a marketing budget at an awareness stage, and it's quite expensive at the awareness stage because you're competing against everybody else, if you can get people to do that for you, it means that you can spend less there, and then you could spend more money on the other stages of the funnel. So you can spend more on the conversion stage of getting people to do the thing. And that's a good way of like focusing the money that you might have and freeing up spend in that way. So if we go back to the Little Mermaid, there she is in her real life glory that we're going to see next year. Can't wait for that. We know what she wants. She's identified her need. So how can she overcome it? So she wants to overcome her need. And what are the options for her to do that? Now, there's another character in The Little Mermaid, if you've not seen it, called Ursula. And she is the best person in the whole film, I think. I'm sure you'll agree. And what Ursula does is she gets Ariel and she explains the offer that she has. I can solve your problem, she says, and she sings it in a beautiful way. And then she skips the consideration stage, Ariel does, because she's like, I don't see any of the other options. I want this now. So bang, jumps straight down the funnel to conversion. And there Ursula is, sucking out her voice. And then she's instantly converted to what she wants. So Ursula's, as an organization point of view, perfect. Her customer is like straight there, going straight through down this funnel. Now, Ursula's retention tactics are a bit questionable. So I wouldn't recommend pretending to be your audience or putting them in prison to make sure that you've retained them. There are other tactics and techniques that you might want. But this is an example of what that kind of funnel looks like. So I'm just going to talk you through the different elements of the funnel now, and some of the metrics that you might want to use for each one. So the first step, at the very top of the funnel, is all about awareness. And people buy into why you exist. So if you're very clear about that, again, your vision statement, we exist to do this thing because we believe in this. That's where you're going to get people buying in. They don't buy what the end result. It's actually about what you are here and stand for. So awareness is all about putting you on the map. And if we're going to look at some of the metrics that you might want to use, there are loads of others. These are I'm just using 3 examples for each one. So the first one is all about impressions. So how many eyes can see the stuff that you're putting out? And it could be on social channels. And you'll find these metrics within the social channel analytics. And there's a difference between impressions and reach. You might see the term reach quite often. Now, reach is the amount of people, and the impressions is the amount of times it's seen. So impressions, I might see the same thing several times. So that's impressions, that's a larger number. And the reach is individual people. So you might want to use the different metrics. It all depends on what these analytics platforms can offer you. Some don't have reach, some only have impressions. But that's one example of showing awareness, because more eyes are seeing what you're putting out in the digital world and offline as well. The second is website traffic. So if you're looking at your Google Analytics or whatever website analytics you have, where is the traffic coming from? What referrals, what other websites are sending traffic to you? It's a really good one to look at when you're thinking about your awareness. And there might be other websites that you should be appearing on. And that might be a tactic or an action that you might want to take, is we're going to put ourselves and we're going to share some content with another website so they can link back to us, because we know our audience is on that website quite often. And a third example for awareness is all about your search position. Now, there might be different terms or different pieces of content that you're putting out, which are actually generating a lot of eyes and the awareness of what you're doing. So what keywords are being used to put you higher up the list on Google and Google searches? So when people are looking, the higher the better. If you're at the top of these searches, what are you doing? What content are you putting out that's actually showing that? And if people are looking for terms, they're not your brand terms, they're not your name as an organization. These are all about other stuff that they're putting out and how far up that list you are. And I've got a good example of that. I'm just going to show you now. So I've been speaking to One Further, who are a digital analytics agency within arts and culture, and they're working with Royal Museums Greenwich. Now, if I'm on Google and I search for the first woman in space, the answer is provided by Google. So it's a rich snippet, it's called this. So it's giving you the information straight away. Now, this information isn't coming from Wikipedia, which is a source that you'll see a lot of this from. Wikipedia is there on that one. But the top result is actually from the Royal Museums Greenwich. If we were to click into that, it jumps straight down to the piece of content. It gives you that fact. So the first woman to travel in space was Soviet cosmonaut Valentina Tereshkova. Damn, I know how to get that wrong. And it highlights that bit of text. Now, I'm here as a user now on this website, and I'm like, oh, what is this? It's answered the question, but now I'm more aware of what the Royal Museums Greenwich is, and oh, they've got an observatory. I'm interested in space stuff. I might now go to them. So it's a good example of how where your search position for the terms that you might be putting out there actually can lead into awareness of what you do wider than what you might be doing otherwise. And it's a really good article, so have a read of that. So the next stage of that, when people are aware of you, they know you exist, you then become a possible destination for people. And that's the consideration stage. So we're going down the funnel. And these people are your leads. So an example is that I've been to the Royal Museums Greenwich website now. I'm a potential lead to go to something else that they offer because I'm aware of them. And there are ways that I'm being tracked online that allow them to send me adverts and things like that to try and pull me back in. So if we're going to look at the consideration stage, the first one is the first example is social engagement. So these are people may already be following you online because they know you exist. They like what you're doing. So that you're getting likes, you're getting shares, they're enjoying your content. So when you might be doing this in your organization, you might be pulling a lot of metrics together. So you're pulling the social metrics together in one big lump. So you're going, this is how many likes, this is how many followers, this is how many shares, and you're lumping it all together. If you categorize it into a funnel, it allows you to see how people are moving down through the different stages of what you're doing. So social engagement, likes and shares, it's a great example of that. The next one is through search volume. And this is the terms of like your organization. So like for us, as Digital Culture Network, I think I've got an example after this. I'll show you that. So in Google Search Console, you can get this data. So where are you appearing in that list? And I'm seeing what you're doing. And another example is email sign up. So what I would love you to do is to sign up to the Digital Culture Network website on our newsletter, and you'll then learn about our upcoming events, the resources we're putting together, and what we're seeing in the arts and culture sector. And Dean will put that link in the chat so you can sign up to our newsletter now, and then you've we're part of your consideration stage for any further training or development that you might want, is that we're part of that consideration for what you might do. Thank you. Okay. So this is the example for us. So this is the Digital Culture Network website, and we're looking at Google Search Console data. And you can see a trend over time that our impressions are getting higher and higher. And when we're thinking about consideration stage, we're looking at the actual brand term. So our brand term is Digital Culture Network. So when we look at that, we'll see in this period, there's 2,000 searches for us there. So we're getting more and more people searching for us and what we're doing. And they're coming through and appearing right here. And that's what we see in Google Search Console. So if we were going to build our funnel and look at the metrics, this is a really good one for us because people already know that we exist. So they're considering and going, I need support in a certain area, or I'm looking for something. I'm going to search for the Digital Culture Network, and I'm going to move to the next stage. So the next stage of the funnel is the conversion stage. And this is all about catching the sea creature or your audience, essentially, and getting them to do what you want them to do. Okay, so some examples of what you might use in the conversion stage is like people are taking an action, a real core action of what you want them to do. So one is purchases. So if you're selling tickets or selling e-commerce to your merchandise store or different items and things like that, it might be purchases that people take. And you can get this information from your ticketing system, your e-commerce store, and analytics in that way. A second example might be form completions. So filling out a form to apply for like an artist residency or something like that, if that's what you do in your organization. It might be those. Or it could be other things that you're trying to get them to do. So they're passing information over to you. And first-party data is still so important. And our email marketing tech champion, Jacqueline, will definitely attest to that, is that if you can capture some type of data about your audiences, it means that you can control the messages and information that you put through to in the future. Now, on social media, when you're putting content out on social media, you can't control who and when sees the content. Unless you're paying for boost post or advertising in that way, you're not actually, you don't have control over when they see it. If you can get their email address and then do email marketing, because it's still such an important channel, you can control what they see and when they see it and the journey they get on. So it's still so important to try and do that, is to capture data and then use that information to take them on a journey through the other things that you offer in your organization. Okay, and the third example is viewing specific pages. So if you have a physical venue that you want people to come to, you might want them to come along and view a page that says when you're open, where you are, what they can get, what the experience is like when they get there. And it might be one page on your website, which is all about that. And there are other examples that you might want people to do. A specific page on your website, and that's where you're trying to get them to. So a conversion doesn't have to be buying something or entering information. It could just be looking at a certain page. And you can get that data in Google Analytics as well. So the last stage, before we go into loyalty, is the retention. So this is all about building a loyal crew. So the metrics that we might use for this stage are repeat purchases. So people coming back, if you're selling stuff on your store, people coming back and buying again and again. Or you're selling tickets, they're getting another ticket. Like for us, as the Digital Culture Network, I want you to come back again and come to another webinar. I've got another one in 2 weeks' time with Ollie, which is all about your digital strategy. So I'd love you to come to that. It really links into what we're talking about today. So for us, that's a really good retention metric if you come back and sign up to that as well. Another example is memberships we've got on here. So moving them further down the funnel about where you want to get people to. So they might have already been to events that you're putting on in the past, and you want them to actually take on a membership. So that shows that they want to have a long-term relationship with you because they're becoming a member. They want to support what you're doing and they're really interested in coming to more. And the last one is Net Promoter Score in this example. So how likely would people recommend you? And this is a real simple metric. It's a 1 to 10 score, and people choose the option there. So how likely are you to recommend us to your friends? And you can use the Net Promoter Score, but you can use it in context with other metrics you might be collecting. So don't just collect that in isolation, because it has its limitations, but it's definitely a good indicator of that last stage, which is all about the loyalty. So how likely are they to recommend you, and will they? Because as we've seen in this example that we're talking about, the funnel, it all moves back up and they do all the awareness for you because they're building people's understanding that you exist and you offer something really good as well. So before we move on to the some questions, please add them to the Q&A function if you can. So excellent question from Sarah there. How do you measure the Net Promoter Score? I'll just answer that before we get to the end. So you'll need to use a surveying tool. So you might be able to add it to a set of questions you might already be asking if you're sending surveys out, or you could use a tool such as Hotjar. And Hotjar has those little pop-ups that are available on your website, and you can add those little scores in. I will add that into the resources that I'll send alongside this webinar. And there's a real nice article from Hotjar, which is all around that. I'll explain how you define that number and then how you collect it as well. An audience agency does a free survey that measures the Net Promoter Score as well. Of course it does, Charlotte, thank you. So yeah, if you have a look at that as well. So I've got some top tips for success. And it's just a review of what we've already talked about today. So the first one is all about asking why. And if your leadership in your organization are not clear about why you're collecting all these metrics, then ask them to be clear. And if they're still not clear, ask them to organize a little one-to-one session with me, and I'll talk through what that is. And I'll help get you up to speed about that. As I said, we've got that webinar in a couple of weeks from Ollie, which is all about your digital strategy. And that's, if you've not got one in place, then that's a great place to start. And it will lead into this, all the metrics that you might want to track, all about your vision statement, where do you want to get to, and then what metrics are going to help support and show that you're on track for the success that you want to get to. So that's it, the number 2, linking everything back to your vision statement. If the metrics you're collecting have nothing to do with your vision statement about where you're trying to get to, then stop collecting them because they're pointless. They're just a waste of time for everybody. And it's just confusing when you're looking at metrics, like overarching bounce rate for your website. Don't get me on to that. The third tip is categorizing the activity for each funnel step. So if you're building awareness, where are you building awareness and what kind of content are you going to put out? Because if you the only content that you're putting out on your social channels and your paid advertising is all about buy this thing now or do this thing, people aren't going to interact with it in the way you think they will. So you need to build awareness first. It needs to be like a soft introduction to what you do, or putting out the great examples of the content of things that you might do or what you believe in. But the awareness, the stuff that you might do around awareness is very, very different for the different other stages of the funnel. And you need to categorize the different content and different actions that you're doing for each one, and the different metrics that you might want to track to show success against each one. So as I said, if you're within an arts and cultural organization in England, get in touch and I'll help you through that. That's what we're here for, here to support you through that and getting those things set up. So map out what and where you are collecting data. So review, get Post-its notes out and look at, or use an online platform such as Jamboard, which is an online version of Post-it notes. Look at where are you collecting data across your different channels. So you might have Facebook Insights, Instagram through Meta, they're all joined together now. Twitter, your internal systems, you might be collecting data about audiences and things like that. So if you map it out, you'll get a better understanding of where the data is going and how you might pull that together. All the stuff that we've talked about today, you might be looking at those different platforms individually to get the data out, but you can automate it and bring it all into one place to report on. And again, that's something I can definitely help with if you'd like to get there, because it'll save you a lot of time. There are free connectors to do this kind of thing now, and I'm going to be doing more content and webinars on that in the future as well. And number 5 is all about defining when it needs to be shared and who with. So if you're collecting all this data, what does it look like when you're reporting back to senior leadership and the board? Do they need to know the ins and outs and individual likes on bits of content? Or do they need top level numbers and stats? And that's where data visualization tools such as Google Data Studio come in, because you can have one report that gets shared with a certain audience group, internal audience, or it could be external as well. And you have a different stats for different groups, and you can build these things, and they're automatically pulling live data, taking away all that manual stuff that you might be doing already, and you can visualize it in a way that's really simple and clear to make decisions on. So right back to the beginning again, how long is a piece of string? So the answer was, it was just under 9 meters. So I think Aidan got the closest with 8.5. It was quite impressive. So well done, Aidan. You get a gold star. I'm going to move over to the Q&A now. So if you've got any questions, please add them in now. So I'll answer them. But we're here if you need any support. Drop us a message. So our email address is digitalnetwork@arntscouncil.org.uk. We are here to help and support you, so please do get in touch. You can have a one-to-one session with me or any of the other tech champions about any digital challenges that you're trying to overcome. We also have our website, which is digitalculturenetwork.org.uk, and on there you'll find our resources and our events that are coming up, and you can get in touch with us through that as well. So please do check that out. And as Dean says, please sign up to our newsletter. That's really important. So we'd love you to move into our funnel and do it that way. And please do tag us on Twitter with us as well, with our lovely tags we've got there. So Dean, have we got anything in the Q&A?
Yes. Yes,
oh!
we do. Hooray! Right, Becca from Theatre Royal Bury St Edmunds, which is local to me. What are the main things I can use Google Search Console for?
Yeah, so that is, if you're using Google Analytics on your website, that's all about people on your website and what they do and how they found it. Now, Google Search Console is all about how people search in Google that's linked to your website. So the data that you can find out there is how many people are searching for different terms, and then how you position within those different terms as well. So for us as a digital culture network, when we're looking at that example, I think we were pretty much top. So it will show that we are the top search result for that search term. And you can look at this data to identify search terms that you probably didn't know that you were ranking for, and then maybe put some more effort into it. Or you could have a look at and use some of the interface to actually do some searches about what you should be ranking for, and maybe there's opportunity there as well for you.
Cool. Right. Joe would like to know if Jamboard is free.
It is. All you need is a Google account, and you don't have to have a Gmail account. You can create a Google account with your own email address, which I highly recommend, especially if it's an organizational email address. And so you just need that, and then you can go onto Jamboard. I think it's jamboard.google.com, and then you can plot out everything. It's a lot of fun, and it's a really good interactive tool to kind of get your ideas out and kind of put things together in that way.
That actually brings us on to a follow-up question from Becca, which is, do you have any resources for learning new Google Analytics? And I suppose also any other recommendations for like such things such as Jamboard as well? Yeah,
so the resource for the new version, have I done that? No, we've got one coming up. So we're going to have one, I think it's in the new year, when we're going to have a webinar specifically on that. But there are loads of other recordings of other webinars that have been out already. But what I'll do, I'll put those in the resources for you. So there's things from the AMA and there's things from One Further as well around Google Analytics. And it's getting it in context to your organization. You have to approach the new version with explicitly knowing what you want to get out of it as well. But if you want one-to-one support, then get in touch and we'll get you set up as well.
Excellent. That's free one-to-one support as well.
Free, yeah, sorry, it's free. Free arts and culture organisations in England.
There you are, cool. Right, Anonymous says, do you have guidance resources about how to run and evaluate website surveys to gain user feedback to help shape future projects, stroke content priorities to meet their needs better?
That's a good one, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, we'll put some of those examples in the following resources with that. I haven't got anything just to tell you about now, but I'll put that in there. There's quite a few. Yeah.
And I think the winner of the longest string award, Aidan, was it Aidan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. In your experience, how well used is the funnel model in the arts? And are there any good examples of publicly displaying their funnels, i.e. in impact reports?
No, which
Nobody
now that
shares.
you've all been here on this webinar, I expect in a year's time that you all use it. I've not come across any really good examples of this. It seems to, what I usually see is that it's either reporting for a funder, so it's the kind of data that's collected for that, or it's categorized in a different way. I've seen it before. The wording is slightly different, but it is about building awareness of like growth in that way, about you exist and stuff like that. So there are some examples, but it's not universal, and it's not, and I'd love it to be adopted more.
Joe is having a revelation that you don't need a Gmail address for Google, so that's good.
Yeah, I think that's, and on that, if the Google account you're using for your YouTube account, your Google Analytics is a Gmail account, then change now. Like swap over to an organization. It could be like marketing at your organization, create one for that. And it means that if someone loses the password for Gmail, you will still be able to get access to it, because that's what happens quite a lot. It's really important to have a Google account which is attached to not a Gmail account.
It's happened a few times. Just a few times.
Yeah, not just a few. Yeah, lost access.
Yeah, Jackie has asked, what CRM databases would you recommend for downloading reports? The one we use is quite faffy.
For downloading reports, or actually creating them. So the CRM database itself is probably it's got a lot of data in there, and we have our new CRM tech champion, Emily. Sorry, Emily, who will be able to help answer those. So Jackie, get in touch and we'll be able to work with you in context of that. If it's data visualization tools, there are quite a few. There's Tableau, Power BI, and Google Data Studio are the top three, and they will interlink with different data sets, such as your CRM database as well.
Brilliant. Katie has asked, how often do you think you should collect stats for them to be meaningful? I'm only website person. I think I'm the only website person at a very big organization which doesn't really report on any stats.
So it all depends on the volume of data you're collecting. So if you're not getting many people to come to your website, then you need to collect a lot more. So the time needs to be a lot wider, the scope of it, to get more data in. It all depends on what you're trying to achieve, really. If you're driving people to the website and that's your core thing, what do you want them to do on the website? And we mentioned earlier on about benchmarking. It's very hard to benchmark against other organizations because you're all doing very, very different things. So benchmarking against yourself and looking at where it is meaningful. It's hard to answer that question without knowing a bit more context about your organization, but you could do monthly reports or you could do yearly. I don't see many organizations doing it any narrower than that, like looking week by week by week. I think it all depends on what you're doing. So again, it's all context to your organization. If you run a festival that's every year at a certain period, then you're going to look at a different period of stats and volume in that way.
And the last question at the moment is, my organization struggle to store data. Do you have any advice for software or places to store big data?
So there are different places where you can store data, obviously. not in an Excel spreadsheet. I'll tell you that now. Please don't save it in an Excel spreadsheet. But it depends on how big the data set is. So you might want to use like a cloud-based software, such as they're called data warehouses. So you've got things like Google Cloud Data Warehouse, and you can use Google BigQuery, which will query that data set and get the information and stats you want out of it. It all depends on what and where you've got lots of data and how and where you need to save it as well. You might have regulations about it needs to stay, within the EU and all those kind of things. So there's lots of considerations when it comes to storing data. But again, please get in touch with us and we can look at that in isolation and try and find a solution for you.
Yeah, I think that's the sort of the takeaway, isn't it? Is each of these organisations are very different. They have different needs and requirements and different resources, and so we can help you with those on a one-to-one basis as well. So, James, that is the last question. I'm just going to double check. Oh no, there's one at the bottom. Sorry. Why shouldn't you use an Excel spreadsheet to store your data? From the anonymous attendee. I don't know who that is.
You anonymous attendee. It is not a database, is the simple answer. Excel is not a database. It is a way to report and manipulate data, but it's not a database in itself, and it shouldn't be used for one. There are limits to the size it can have, and access and security. Those are the three main reasons.
There you go. So that's it. The death of Excel. Right, that is it, James. There are no more questions at this time. So I'm going to hand it back to you to do your end bit.
Very much, yes. So I think I've covered the end bits already. So please do get in touch with us. Please share on Twitter that you've been on this wonderful webinar. And you'll get a survey at the end of this. We read it. We would love to see your responses, how you felt this went. And if there is anything, like your questions you got there, if there's anything else you think of, please ask it in the survey, because I can build that into the resources that I create and to wrap around this webinar. And we will share this recording with you with that list of extra resources about the things we've discussed today. So thank you everybody for joining me today, and hope you enjoy the rest of the Leeds Digi 22.